All right. Hey, Adam, how you doing?
Very well, Fast. How are you?
Hey, I'm fantastic. Thank you for meeting with me today. Would you like to introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Adam Pearce. I'm one of the co-founders of Blend Commerce. We are basically an e-commerce agency based about an hour and a half out of London. And we have, I guess, kind of been on our sort of entrepreneurial journey rather for about the past 16 months. So yeah, great to be obviously here talking with you, and yeah, looking forward to talking more.
Yeah, absolutely. So what exactly, what is Blend Commerce? What's it all about?
Yeah, so we are essentially a Shopify expert agency, which means that we deal exclusively with kind of building e-commerce stores for entrepreneurs. So essentially sell a whole host and different range of products. And what we also do is that we work with Shopify entrepreneurs to essentially help them build both a brand and also drive sales as well through our marketing team. So the idea is really that clients can come to us who are interested in either taking existing product and selling online, or taking a new product or service they want to sell online. And really we can help them with the whole process from kind of strategizing kind of where they need to go, and also as well sort of actually implementing the strategies, and helping them obviously push it through onto the market as well. So yeah, that's a bit of it in a nutshell what we do.
That's really cool. Is your background in business marketing, or what did you do before Blend?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a bit of interesting, I guess, journey really before sort of getting involved with Shopify. After graduating, I did a degree in economics, and after that, I actually went on to work for Accenture. So I was a management consultant with Accenture for about 3.5 years. I worked with a lot of big financial services brands like Barclays, like the London Stock Exchange, HSBC. And kind of after that sort of, I guess, sort of my first, I guess, career, I started doing a little bit of volunteering work. And it was mainly with charities that helped young people who were looking to get into business, and also school level kids who were looking to really kind of learn a bit more about business and kind of the real world scenario rather than just kind of studying at school. And after kind of the first probably 2 or 3 months, something kind of switched inside me, and I thought, look, this is something I really want to do full time. Obviously, it was hard because regardless of where you're on the world, if you're in the corporate world versus going to teaching, the money isn't great. But for me, it was about kind of doing something that interested me and engaged me. So I actually left my job at Accenture. I went to basically retrain as a teacher. And then what I then did is actually retrain to teach as a business studies and economics teacher. And basically then I went on to teach a lot in the UK. I also went to teach out in Dubai. And then after sort of a little period longer of teaching, I then kind of came to, again, a bit of a crossroads really. And in my mind, I think, it's kind of, I guess, something that a lot of us do as individuals where we kind of go into career with kind of preconceived notions of what things are going to be like. And I think I kind of had that realization that, look, both of the careers that I've been into, they weren't really as I'd expected. There were some pluses, there were some negatives. But what I realized is that I kind of wanted to do something that was kind of a little bit sort of in the middle of the two. So I changed again. So at this point, I'm 27, 28. I've had 2 careers. As you can imagine, I had a lot of, I guess, raised eyebrows from friends, from family, from colleagues. But I think in my mind, I knew that something wasn't right. And what I actually did is that I then went to work in marketing, but actually went to work in educational app marketing. So I worked with quite a fairly new startup in the UK, who were basically devising a really new, innovative educational app that was using audio to basically help students study better. That was both kind of at university and college level, all the way down to sort of elementary or primary level. And then basically after about 1.5 years, I was then approached by their competitor to then go and become a marketing director at their firm. So again, that sort of went on for a while. Really enjoyed it. I learned a heck of a lot about sales, a heck of a lot about marketing, and really, I guess, kind of the whole life cycle of a business from that kind of very infantile startup stage to kind of taking something multinational. Basically, what happened is that now a guy who is my brother-in-law, who is now my business partner, we actually ended up meeting through a mutual friend. And what happened is that we were kind of discussing Shopify. My business partner had essentially started developing Shopify stores, and he told me about a lot of the good things that were happening with Shopify. Now, for me, obviously, as someone who had never heard of it, I just thought, okay, well, yeah, whatever. It's on the platform. It's another solution. You know, I'd obviously heard of guys working with WooCommerce before. I heard of guys working, you know, kind of on Magento. I'd actually was managing a Magento store at the time. And I kind of, you know, brushed it aside a little bit, but then I saw a lot of the work that was going on. A lot of it, I guess, the things that Shopify was doing to kind of grow its platform. And I just basically said to Peter, look, this is something that I think we need to do. We need to seriously think about how we can help a lot of these, I guess, kind of, you know, younger companies coming onto the platform and helping them actually get a very solid marketing strategy together. Because what we kind of were identifying, I guess, together as when we looked is that, yeah, there were a lot of people going onto the platform, but they weren't necessarily having the full, I guess, sort of wealth of skills that they needed. And, you know, look, that's natural. You know, as entrepreneurs, you know, there's always going to be things that we're not good at and we need help and extra support with, and things that we need to outsource. So that was really kind of how the idea came about. And, you know, kind of one of the things that we always talk about in the business is that the way the business was actually conceived is that we were actually sat around essentially a barbecue one night, or a South African braai. We had probably a few too many beers, which I think is how a lot of good businesses actually start. And we just said, look, we've got to go for it. So that Sunday morning, we literally got together in the kitchen. We got a piece of paper out. We made a business plan. And then I actually gave my notice the week later. And then a month later, it was like, right, we own a company. Let's do this. And that was essentially 17 months ago. So we, as I say, we kind of went from 2 guys on a kitchen table to a team of 8 now. And really, yeah, that's kind of how I got from there to there to now.
What's being, you know, working with all these entrepreneurs, what's one thing you notice that people might not know when they're starting their business that you always find that you, maybe not you're just repeating yourself always, but what's something that you always find with these new startup businesses that you have to help them out with?
You know, it's a good question. I think the main thing that I always kind of talk about is that there is always a tendency, I think, for entrepreneurs to believe that when they have a product, that product is going to be for everyone, that it's going to be for every single person in every single different part of the world. And I know this kind of sounds, you know, I guess kind of, yeah, I'm not trying to kind of be patronizing and condescending here, but it's difficult, you know, when you've got something you genuinely believe in, and you've got something that you found or you developed yourself or you sourced, there is that tendency to go, right, okay, great, you know, I've got a platform with Shopify that I can send the UK, I can send the US, I can send in Canada, I can send India, wherever it might be. But the thing that we always kind of, you know, always say to entrepreneurs is, look, from the perspective of getting the product that you have now to the person who you feel is most likely to buy that product, from the perspective of you getting that product to that person, serving that person the best way, who is that person? And that's kind of for us, kind of that key question. And from a marketing point of view, that's kind of the thing that I always tend to start with, because it's always very tempting, you know, kind of think when you've got a new business that, yeah, okay, you do want to sing about it, you do want to tell everyone about it. And I'm not, you know, saying that businesses shouldn't do that and entrepreneurs shouldn't do that. But I think it's very important to get those early wins in getting that confidence in yourself, saying, look, yeah, okay, I'm a little startup in Idaho. I've managed to get, you know, 20 people buying that product in Idaho who really believe in this product. It gives you that innate confidence. I've had it myself. You know, I remember the first, you know, big project that I sold. You know, I remember waking up at 4:30 in the morning to essentially talk to a guy in Los Angeles because of the time zone between here and the UK. But the buzz that I got and the confidence that instilled in me after I'd actually made that first sale was fantastic. And it was purely because, you know, we were very much focusing on a smaller subset of referrals that we had from our initial work to get that win across the line. And then from that, then we grew in confidence and we then could go out. So yeah, very much for me, it's about kind of saying, look, narrow in, you know, niche into a particular group of people. Once you've got that confidence in the first few sales, then think about expanding. Don't try and take it all in one go, because, you know, look, it's hard enough, kind of starting out, but trying to think you're going to conquer the world in a week, it's just, yeah, it's not good.
No, unless you have that, that clear-minded goal in the target market as well. If you're going too broad and you're thinking too far ahead and only thinking of its dollar bills, probably not going to get there in a week or a month.
And I think, that you're absolutely right, Fuss. It's that kind of short term versus long term. A lot of kind of business gurus talk about this, that we, obviously being all very connected via social media. And, I'm sure obviously the people that are watching this right now are watching on either LinkedIn or YouTube on these platforms. I think it's important to kind of look at a lot of the, I guess, the discussion that comes across on these platforms, that it isn't always necessarily about those making sure that you win everything right now, taking a longer term view from your own sanity point of view, but your future success is, for me, something that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the terms of just speaking with with Blend Commerce and stuff, what were some things when you started your own business that you struggled with, or maybe you had, like you said, you started out in the kitchen, just with your brother-in-law. What were some early failures you guys had and that you had to work through, and how did you overcome them?
Have you got about 3 hours?
Give me the TLDR on it, the short version.
Yeah, no problem. I think the big thing for me is that in an industry, kind of a tech focused industry, let's face it, we're all working in relative terms, new industries, because the rate that things adapt at, you're always essentially kind of working in new industry. And I think the big thing that I found personally, I think also my business partner, as well as a lot of my, I guess, sort of peers and our sort of competitors, that you always kind of get to hear this thing about the imposter syndrome. And it very much, I think did affect me, because, I was someone, that had, okay, right, I got marketing experience, but I hadn't got that specific experience with Shopify marketing directly. And I'm not, embarrassed to say that at all. I hadn't. It was a new platform, it was a new thing. I had to learn it. I had to hone my skills. And I think the biggest thing really is that kind of when you're starting out, it's that we found is making sure that you have that confidence to talk to someone and tell them about the strengths you have as an individual, with not kind of either over exaggerating, or also as well kind of coming across the fact that you are someone that is kind of a little bit, I guess, sort of tentative, someone that maybe can't fulfill what they're looking to say. So I think kind of that sort of imposter syndrome idea was definitely something we had to overcome. I think the way that we have overcome that is that, and it's something we've instilled in the company now, is that we make sure that each week everyone is constantly doing something to learn. And I know, again, a lot of people might be watching this going, okay, well, maybe he's just saying that, but genuinely, every single day we are either watching a YouTube clip, we're reading a blog, we are doing some training, because the rate at which things are changing so quickly, we are having to adapt. And if we don't, we're going to get to a situation very, very quickly, in the case of probably, a couple of weeks, where you'll be talking to a client and, they will be talking about something that you don't know about. I mean, a classic example of this at the moment is a lot of what's happening with terms of AI and chatbots. And, it's a real big push at the moment from a marketing point of view. We have all had to upskill on that. And the interesting thing is that my most junior member of staff has been the one who has essentially been feeding us and teaching us the core parts of what we need to know about that. And that was kind of something that we overcame by saying, look, we need to develop this learning culture. There is very much, I think, I guess, I'm not really going to say a disease, but it's that kind of thing that when you get into a role, you get into a position that you kind of think, look, I'm safe now. I've got my position. I've taken my law degree. I'm now a lawyer, or I have taken medical exams. I'm now a doctor. It doesn't matter what profession you're in, you've got to keep that learning process going. So that was certainly a challenge. The other big one, I think, for us was also, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs find this, is when you're looking to employ new staff, what route do you go down? Because, in the world that we're living in now, in kind of, our Fiverr, Upwork, freelancer world, there is very much a tendency to say, look, we have this fantastic, kind of global economy of a workforce that we can interact with. But equally, certainly, you know, from my perspective, it is kind of a new world to me. So again, that balance of saying, look, when we do look for staff, are we looking for the offshore hire? Are we looking for someone local? And we've had both positive and negative experiences with both of those different scenarios. But I think it's about, you know, the challenging thing is trying to work out, right, when we are interviewing someone, whether it's face to face or whether we're doing it, you know, via email or Skype, you know, what are the things that we really need? And I think, you know, one of the big difficulties and mistakes that we made in the early days is when we recruited is that we were very much often, a lot of the time, kind of often looking for people that kind of fitted in. And I think it's kind of one of those naive things that a lot of entrepreneurs do, that they kind of look around and say, look, we're in this office, you know, there are 3-4 people here. We need to get someone that fits into our team. And the first couple of weeks when you do that are great, because, you know, you get out for coffees, it's all, you know, happy, smiley, smiley. And then you kind of realize, actually, when you get a month, 6 weeks down the line, damn, you know, this person hasn't actually quite got the right skill set. This person, you know, probably hasn't got quite the right work ethic to push this very small growing business about where we need to be. So that was something we learned the hard way. You know, a lot of people kind of talk about sort of this idea of, you know, sort of hiring slow, firing fast. It sounds very, I think, kind of, you know, cutthroat to me. But I think, you know, one of the important things that we learned is that always focus on what that person can do in the business. Yes, you know, the softer side of things are important to an extent, but they tend to be only important at the very start. And when you get further down the line, it's got to be at what can they do? How can they help? Do they fit into the trajectory of where you want your business to go?
Yeah. Do you require, so when you bring on new team members, do you require degrees? Do you require them to have degrees in certain aspects? No?
Not at all.
Yeah.
In terms of our team at the moment, in terms of our development team, I would say about 75% of them are essentially self-taught. So these were guys that started in industries as diverse as architecture, as graphic design, as quantity surveying, who all essentially developed a passion for coding. And I think, you know, one of the really great things is about when you have people that perhaps, you know, have learned something for themselves. And I'm not, you know, kind of being disrespectful to people that go and do a degree in computer science. But the good thing about it is that you have someone there who knows those initial struggles that new members of the team are going to have. So that when it comes to, for example, you know, a particularly tricky part of JavaScript, our guys can literally talk to one another and say, right, yeah, I remember when I was studying this. I remember when I learned how to do this. I made this mistake, so we need to do X, Y, Z. So that's, you know, for us, a degree is, you know, for me, one of the last things I'm looking at. I'm looking at a CV. What's that person done? And, you know, especially our new hires of people that are straight out of school, straight out of university, you know, what are the extra things that you've done? You know, were you taking a part-time job? Were you playing as part of sports teams? Have you written me a good cover letter that tells me why you want to work in this industry? What are you passionate about? Whether they go to an Ivy League or a Russell Group, whatever that might be, you know, where in the world. I was going to swear them, but I won't. But I couldn't really care less. You know, it's about their passion and about, do they want to do this job? Do they want to be part of something that's going to grow?
I think self-awareness and, you know, the motivation to develop yourself personally, you know, in skills, social skills, emotionally, I think, in my opinion, that goes a lot more than having that piece of paper. You know, just the fact that that you can show that you have the experience and you have the drive to actually go and learn something and you want to better yourself. I think as an employer, that looks a lot better on a resume CV.
And no, absolutely. And to honest, you know, in my previous careers, you know, I've had scenarios where I've literally been in a room where we've had new graduates, and we've had, you know, graduates from some of the world's leading universities, kind of without naming names, and then, you know, universities that, you know, some people would, I guess, sort of frown upon, and kind of, you know, sort of look down their nose at. But in those scenarios, when you've got someone who is shown that commitment and is shown that passion and is telling you that they want this job and they want to do it, and these are the reasons why, where they have come from an education point of view, it just pales into significance for me. It really, it just doesn't kind of, help.
Do you see this moving forward, in the next decade, 2 decades? Do you see this as going to become more of a common thing for not prerequisites to have degrees? I mean, Google and Apple, and I think IBM has already started doing it. I know there's been a lot of news on that lately, but can you see this becoming more of a prevalent thing with other larger or medium-sized based companies?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, I think the interesting thing as well is that I think I've been reading recently about a few other brands as well looking to do it. So I think even Shopify, because it's their industry, they've been talking about that recently. But I think what will happen is that because the fact that, if we kind of look at the demographics of businesses now, there is obviously a massive push presently of that kind of 21 to 35-year-olds who are going into entrepreneurship. And I think because you have that demographic going into business, this kind of idea, that piece of paper, that degree is the most important thing, that thing that defines you. These people are not necessarily from that world. That will hopefully then trickle down. So I certainly think that is definitely going to be the case. And I think the interesting will certainly be over probably the next sort of 15 to 20 years in terms of how that goes. And I know certainly, sort of in our part of the world in the UK, there's been a massive push around kind of going down an apprenticeship route where people are actually studying in the workplace. So they're getting real hands-on skills as they go, and then kind of the study part in terms of sitting in a lecture hall or sitting in a tutor room with a tutor is becoming a lot less. And I think it's interesting, if you kind of think about history and I guess the way that society's evolved, we've kind of gone from this place where people very much were kind of the practical, the learning, the apprentice of learning how to do something. We've then gone kind of full scale the other way, where it's all been about, right, from an academic point of view, how much information can you learn, can you know, can you acquire? And now we're kind of going back down again, I think, to probably that previous period where it is actually again about those kind of practical skills. So for me, I definitely see that we're going to move away from this over reliance on academia and this idea that college, university has to be the one and only way to go to get yourself into a professional career.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting as well, because with that being said, it's going to really expose who's actually working hard. Who's actually putting in the time and the effort, to learn a skill and do this for quite frequently years at a time, rather than mom and dad, pay $250K for a degree because they knew somebody who knew somebody, and then they're just going to get a job at some firm. So I think it definitely works in the favor of those who maybe just don't have the resources, but have the knowledge and the drive to actually go and do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have, I was going to say, we have a lot of people emailing us asking for work experience, or asking to sort of be able to come and just basically see what it's like kind of in our office. And as much as I possibly can, I will say yes to those people, because I think look, you guys have got the guts to go out there and say, right, look, this is me, this is what I want to do, can I have some of your time, these are reasons for it. That for me is so much more impressive than kind of just getting a CV sent through. Tell me why you want to do it, show me your passion. So
yeah, absolutely. So to kind of move away from that, in your own personal life though, as a company owner and running your own business there with your partner, what are some things that you found yourself to help motivate yourself, to help maybe something you've changed in your mindset, or something you helped to do time management? Is there anything specific you found to help you yourself as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that the thing for me is that I think kind of when I left university, I kind of I think I had this idea of sort of dollar signs tattooed on the back of my eyelids. It was very much about kind of saying, right, how much wealth can I accumulate in the shortest amount of time possible? I want to be a partner at Accenture by the time I'm 30. I want to have this house, I want this car, da 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 da. And very shortly, kind of after that initial kind of period of embedding into that lifestyle, you fast realize, I think, well, I certainly realized that, look, that is something that comes at a price. And I saw a lot of my colleagues who, were sort of 5-10 years older than me, who were still essentially kind of chasing that dream that I had. And, I saw the effect that had on them personally, in terms of their mental health, in terms of their physical health, in terms of the effect on their family. So I think one of the big things for me was when I kind of came to the point at the end of my teaching career, and I decided to kind of to go and work in sort of in education at marketing. One of the big things for me then was saying, right, what are the things in my life that make me happy? And it was the first time, I think, in my life that I went, look, it's not just about taking my job and saying, as part of my job, what makes happy. So, for example, it is, okay, number one, I love coming home on Friday afternoon, spending time with my wife, taking my dog out for a walk. That is an absolute must for me. So as part of my working life, that is one of the things that I've got to maintain to do. Also about kind of things like, seeing friends, making sure that you have the time in your schedule to do that is so important, because, again, I had times where I did miss family get-togethers. I did miss friends' birthdays, because the fact that I've just kind of saying, so look, I've got to focus on work. I've got to focus on work. So from a mindset point of view, I think it's about stepping back from a moment and saying, look, my job and my career is important, but it does not define me as the whole person. And you've got to think about those other aspects of your life in terms of what truly does make you happy. And I think that for me is something that I have to think of all the time, because it is tempting to go, you know what, screw it, I am going to work at the weekend, or yeah, I am going to work till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. But then it's only a week, 2 weeks, a month, a year later, you realize the effect that has on everyone around you. And I'm not saying, look, I don't wish to work hard. I absolutely do. But the point is that if I get to the point in my life where I look back and go, damn, there's so many things I missed, then, look, that's not going to be good. And you can't take that back. So that's really important. But in terms of, I guess, one thing that really helps me in terms of time management, the biggest thing for me is that I actually use a piece of software called Teamweek, and we use that actually across all of our staff. And what this essentially does is that it's a very simple piece of software. You can see what everyone in your team is up to in that week, and you can block off 20-minute, 30-minute, 1-hour blocks. But what we do is that we kind of use it almost like, we call it kind of digital checklist, in that you have blocks on the screen where you have, for example, I've got an hour in the morning where I've got a call with a client. I then got an hour where I'm doing some training with a member of staff. And by checking those items off, psychologically, it gives you a boost, like the good old-fashioned piece of paper and a pen. But secondly, it's great for the team because everyone can see the contribution that other people are putting in. And in a way, in that scenario, there isn't really a place to hide, which is a good thing for everyone. But also as well, from that point of view of kind of psychology saying, look, we are moving closer towards our goal at the end of this quarter, or, look, we have managed to do this week, or I can look down at the team and say, look, this person has got a lot on their plate this week. We need to give them some help, we need to give them support. So Team Week for me has been an absolutely brilliant piece of software to help us manage our time a lot more effectively.
Yeah, I'll have to grab a link for it after you and put it in the description below. I'm sure some people would be interested in checking that out. I think being transparent with what other teams are working on, and just keeping up to date with everything, like, hey, are we moving at the same rate as this team, and between different partners is definitely important, because then everybody can kind of keep on the same page and stay up to date with everything and all. Are you a big reader, Adam?
I must confess, I used to be, but now it's occasional. But I do try and read as much as I can. The reason I'm asking is I was just curious if there's any kind of any good reads out there that you wanted to recommend, or maybe just even a simple blog that you keep up to date with that helps you maybe stay motivated or in the tech news of the world. Okay, so number one recommendation has got to be 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. It's a bit of a cliche answer, But if I'm honest with you, that was one of the key reasons that I decided to essentially take the jump. Now, if I'm honest with you, I would love to say I'm working 4 hours a week. I'm not. So, don't get me wrong, it's not a book that I can say, look, I've lived every rule by. But what that book absolutely does do is that it goes back to that point I was making before about valuing your time and knowing what is important. So particularly, the messages for me in that book were about not procrastinating and not spending too much time on tasks that don't actually make a big impact to your life. So for me, that was, a real biggie for me, that book was, in terms of just thinking more about being kind of more productive with how you spend your time. And another big book that kind of influenced me a lot was How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now, I think, for me, I'm a person that, I'm probably coming across quite confident here. And I think I am quite a confident person, but when it comes to meeting new people, or the dreaded N-word, networking, it literally can sometimes give me heart palpitations. And I remember, kind of reading that book, and what it does is, for me, is that it breaks down that idea of saying, look, when you are in that situation of meeting new people, whether that is about getting a new job, whether it is about, meeting a new client, whatever it might be, it's purely about kind of taking that situation and saying, look, the position that you find yourself in now is as awkward for the person you are meeting, and it's not kind of putting all that pressure on yourself. And I think that, for me, was a really good book to read for someone who didn't really like finding themselves in those situations. Don't get me wrong, I'm not cured, but it does make me feel a lot more calm and at ease now when I kind of think about the two-way relationship that Dale Carnegie talks about in that book of when you are essentially meeting that new person for the first time.
Yeah, I love that. Those are both really, really good recommendations, especially the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. I don't think it's a cliche answer. I think I do believe that's a good book and people should read it. When you were first starting your business, do you have any advice to, maybe something you wish you knew? Do you have any advice to younger entrepreneurs starting out?
Find something that you love doing. No, I'm joking. No, seriously. It's, the thing is that in kind of the world that we live in now, there are so many opportunities to get a product, find an opportunity that you feel that you can make money from. And if I, without kind of disclosing any names or anything like that, if I look at the clients that we have worked with and the ones that have been most successful, it has been people that have either developed their own product, which, okay, is difficult, or are providing a product or service that they truly do love working with. Because I think the difficult thing is that when it comes to developing your business, if you are selling a product, whether it is face-to-face, whether you are trying to get funding for your business, the only way that someone's going to truly believe in you in terms of buying that product or buying or investing in a business is that if you can truly convince them that that is a damn good product or a damn good service that you're offering. And otherwise, there just isn't that belief there, and that's why people won't buy. And it's exactly the same, when it comes to a Shopify store that we talk about. We often talk about trust on Shopify stores, and one of the things about trust is about writing brilliant copy that convinces that person that the quality of the product or service that you're providing. So the big thing for me is that as a young entrepreneur, if you are at that stage where you're kind of thinking, look, I want to go into business, but I'm really not sure what I want to do, what I want to do yet. Get some experience elsewhere. You've got plenty of time. We work with entrepreneurs that didn't start until they're in their 40s and 50s and even 60s as well, because it wasn't the right time for them to get involved until that point, because they hadn't found that passionate product that they were after or that passionate service that they were able to provide. So I think don't be scared to go and try different things first, and try smaller businesses. Try testing things out. Maybe try going, kind of doing an internship in sales. Maybe try doing an internship in marketing. Go and, if you're, if you've got a particular skill for writing, go and do some, freebie work via Freelancer or whatever it might be. Get some experience in those different areas. Find out what you're good at. And then when you're at a point where you find a product or a service that you're really, truly passionate about, then at that point, go for it. I think, sometimes when we, particularly we meet kind of sometimes younger entrepreneurs, that have found a product, they just want to get out into the market, they want to make money from it straight away. It's difficult because it's hard to maintain the energy that you need. You need to be able to work 12, 16, 18 hours a day sometimes. And if you're working with a crappy product that you don't believe in, that you really you wouldn't buy yourself, then how are you going to force yourself to get out of bed in the morning? Like I don't see how you can do it any other way. If I didn't like what I was doing now, I couldn't do it. And I've shown that by myself in the past in other careers. I got to a point where I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning, and I didn't want to be a teacher. I didn't want to be a consultant. So I had to do something different. So by all means, love what you want to do, love what you want to sell, love what the service is that you want to provide.
I absolutely stand by that, and I love your answer. That is some serious actionable advice that anybody listening who's starting out can act on. I think that's a great place to just cap it off right there, man. No more needs to be said.
Cool.
Yeah. Do you have any final words you'd like to say, or someone you want to shout out, or?
Yeah, I mean, just look. Thank you, Foster, for this opportunity to talk to you. It's been really interesting to talk to you, and I hope if it's been useful, just couple of seconds what I've said to anyone who's starting out, great. And yeah, just thanks to everyone at Shopify for all the help and support they've given us, and all of my fantastic team as well. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks.
Awesome, man. Cool. I'll be sure to link Blend below and any of your socials you want as well. Cool. Anybody can check it out. Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks, Foster. Cheers.
Cheers.